Hey, Tori girl. Can y'all see Whit out there hanging with the horses? I don't know if it's going to show up on the camera. There's just a little guy out there just chilling with his posse. I think Tori would like a little more time in the spotlight. Oh, here comes Marley. They've actually got to get sheared soon. What is up, y'all? Welcome back to Roots and Refuge Farm. So I've been plugging away at a chore the last 2 days. Don't mistake me when I say plugging away. It's not something that I dislike doing. It's just something that I've only been able to do a little bit of at a time. I've been digging potatoes. So you can kind of see this row that's disturbed right here, that the plants are gone. I've dug 2 5-gallon buckets of potatoes out of that little section right there. And I am commencing this evening with more potato digging. It's actually probably, the sun is low enough out here now. I probably don't actually need my hat. I was digging earlier and it was really bright. So sometimes when I have jobs like this, I just have to break it up and do it by like a certain period of time. Like, okay, I'm gonna go dig potatoes for 30 minutes, or the way I've been doing it, I'm gonna dig 1 5-gallon bucket. Today I have this box out here. It's evening. My goal this evening is to just fill this box. And I don't think that's gonna take me very long. Got a little bit of bug damage in these, but for the most part they look really good. Ooh, that one's got a nice juicy spot. Gross. For the most part, I have been digging very good looking potatoes out of the ground with lots of lovely food. This is my favorite chore in all of gardening. And I know I have a lot of favorites, like in life in general. I'm often saying this is my favorite because I just love being alive. But though I love the garden and most everything that it entails, digging potatoes just remains the very best thing that you can have to do in gardening. Oh look, this one's purple. It's like treasure hunting and it never gets old. I love this so much. So in part, my plugging away at the potato harvesting is because, I mean, I'm doing a lot of things. My kids are home from school, which means, I mean, that takes a lot of time to be able to give them what they need and make sure they're all fine. Though my kids are getting to a point that they can do a lot of things for themselves and they can help a lot. They actually may come out here and help me dig potatoes tomorrow, but I haven't been really asking for help on this particular chore because I really, really enjoy doing this. And I've been doing a bucket at a time while I can, but I'm also not in any rush to get it done. The potatoes are done, and some of them are like very done. Like, look at this dude. That's a pretty good potato right there. A lot of them are still pretty small though, so they'd probably be fine if I harvested them over the course like the next week or week and a half. The thing is that right now the weather is really favorable for it. You pretty much want to dig your potatoes when it's dry. I'm going ahead and getting it done. We don't have any rain on the forecast for the next couple of days, so I might as well make the most of it. But I'm not trying to do it all in one fell swoop, because why would you want to take your favorite garden chore and just knock it out? I don't want to do that. So I'm listening to an audiobook called The God of the Garden by Andrew Peterson. He wrote the Wing Feather Saga, which is a book my kids have really enjoyed, or a series of books. And this is my first time listening to something that he's written for adults. I'm really enjoying it. I'm gonna get to it, doing my favorite garden chore, listening to this awesome book. But I'll set the camera up. You guys can dig alongside me. Well, filling this box did not take me very long at all, actually. Just the rest of the row. I brought out my potato spoon. I've got a pitchfork, but I don't like using it because it spears the potatoes, and so you just lose some. I like digging with my hands, but my fingers get raw. So I bring a spoon out and then laugh a little ironically about how many times I fussed at my kids for taking the silverware out to dig in the dirt. You know. Well, I don't know, maybe I should start a second row, top the box off, get it good and full. So most of these potatoes bloomed about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, so typically you want to wait 2 weeks after they flower. Sometimes your tomatoes will set fruit, green fruits on the top of the plant. They look slightly tomato-ish, don't eat them. That's not food. They'll make you sick. But when they flower, it's kind of your countdown. Usually a couple weeks after they flower, the plants themselves start looking a little sickly. They start getting spotty and brown and dying back, and that is also your cue to go ahead and dig. Now I had 2 varieties mixed in on this row, and some of them are still a little on the small side, namely the purple ones, but the golden ones had gotten really big. I cannot remember what these varieties are. I started with seed potatoes years ago, but I haven't bought seed potatoes in years now because I just plant whatever is sprouted from the year before. I've got some yellowing sickly plants over here, so I'm going to go ahead and start digging over here. This is lamb's quarter, which is a weed, but is actually edible, and we didn't bother pulling it because in my experience, having weeds in the potato bed doesn't make a lick of difference in the harvest that you get. In fact, actually this year I think it worked to our favor because we do have some deer that come into the garden. They're not terrible because we have big animals right on the other side of the fence. We have dogs, we have cats. I doubt the cats deterred the deer. The dogs definitely do. They bark at them. But there were multiple times that I've come out in the last, really few weeks since the lamb's quarter got really big and the potatoes have been really mature. And I've seen multiple plants of lamb's quarter that are just completely stripped of leaves. And it would only be deer that would do that, especially, they're really tall now, so it's not a rabbit or anything doing that. And the potato plants are fine. So I guess it kind of worked out in my favor to have lifted those lamb's quarters. It was kind of a time issue for me. I don't really have time to come out here and be super meticulous on the weeds in this potato bed. The worst part about digging potatoes with your hands is coming across the seed potato because it's nasty. It's usually just a pile of mush. But look at that. It's food from the earth. This is awesome. Do y'all know how amazing it is to just dig up pounds of food right out of the dirt, the soil? It's so good. It just makes me feel like I have so much abundance. The way that I plant potatoes typically is make sure you have like nice soft soil. Either just nestle your seed potatoes right down into the top of the soil or lay them on top of it entirely and cover it up with hay or straw. And then mulch it again a time or two. I didn't have a ton of hay or straw to use this year because our cattle herd has grown a lot, and we went through a little more hay than we had anticipated this year, just because we have quite a few more cows than we did last year. And so I was kind of going sparingly on some of my hay mulch this spring. So these potatoes are not nearly as mulch as what I normally do, hence all of the weeds. And honestly, I'm still getting a really good harvest. I think that they did just completely fine, even without as much mulch, and even with all the weeds. Alright, I think my box is as full as it needs to be. I'm gonna load it up. We planted these, I don't know, mid-March or so. Here where it's warm and we get a good deal of precipitation, it takes about 10 weeks or so to grow potatoes. Really a fast turnaround considering how much food you get. And also for such little work. The most work that potatoes take is preparing the space and then digging them up. And a lot of people do them in containers, buckets, and all of that stuff. This year, I think we've got 3 full rows. The rows are 60 foot long. I don't know, 3 feet wide or so. And so far, I've got 2 5-gallon buckets plus that box, and I've still got most of them to dig. I've probably dug maybe about 1/5 or so of what we've got. Yeah, I'd say that's about right. Now I'm taking these up into my house. If I had a garage or something like that, I'd use it. But what I do is I take a bunch of boxes that I get like when I go to Costco, and I just lay the potatoes out in a single row in the corner of my living room right now, and I'll let them sit there for about a week. You just want a cool, darkish place where they can kind of dry out some and cure. It takes about a week or 2 depending on the conditions that they're in, and then you can put them back in buckets and then store them in as cool and dark of a place as you have to store them. Now, I've had people say to me before, like, oh, you can't eat your potatoes until you cure them. I've never heard that. Even with sweet potatoes, I've had many people tell me they don't taste sweet until after they're cured. That's really not been my experience. Maybe in some growing conditions that's true, I don't know, but my experience, I dig potatoes and sweet potatoes out of the garden and cook them immediately, regularly, and they're both very delicious. Really, the potatoes though, man, if you can ever eat a fresh dug potato, I just feel like you get to know what a potato is supposed to taste like. The skin on them just peels away. Like, even when you're washing them straight out of the garden, you have to be careful. Like, before you cure them, before you lay them out to let them dry, do not try to wash them. You leave the dirt on. When you do take them directly out of the soil and go wash them, the skins like peel off under your fingers just while you're running them under water without any scrubbing or anything. They're so good. So yes, potatoes are on the menu all week at our house while I'm digging them out of the ground, because this is really the best week for potatoes all year round. I mean, I feel like that's worth celebrating. It makes me feel like a hobbit, honestly, how excited I am about potatoes on this particular week every time it comes around. Hey bro, what you doing laying there? I was unrealistic with my time this evening, and I had somehow in my head that I was going to harvest a bunch of potatoes and come harvest the onions. Obviously that didn't happen, and I'm running out of light. My camera compensates for it, but it's very dusky. I've probably got about 10 or 15 minutes out here being able to see. But obviously the onions are ready too, so when onions are ready, they kind of brown on the tips of the tops, and then they just sort of fall over. These are ones that had started trying to sprout a little bit. So we pulled these out and just laid them here to dry, I don't know, like 3 or 4 days ago. And since these all started to sprout, meaning they sent up a hard stalk, that hard stalk or stem, it actually pierces the bulb itself. So if your onions try to go to seed and they put up that center stalk, they're still good to eat, but because that stalk does pierce in the inside of the bulb, they don't store as long. You can store them, but just not as long. I mean, some onions, if you dry them properly and braid them, I mean, they can last in storage in a cool, dark place for months. But if they've already tried to go to seed, they're not going to last that long. So what I typically do is I take those and I use them first. So what I'll do with all of these is I'll separate them by kind. Like, I've got some yellow, some red, some white. And I will actually cut the tops off, and you can dehydrate the tops. I usually don't, but you can dehydrate the tops and make like an onion powder. I don't know, maybe I should try it this year. And I'll take these and put them all through my food processor, and I'm going to immediately put them in my freeze dryer to make some freeze-dried onion powder. I don't know, should I do the tops too? I think I probably will. Everybody keeps telling me that. I've cooked with them before, I've used them some, but I've never like dehydrated a ton of them and made powder. But then I'm going to take all of these onions, harvest them, and I'm actually going to use my greenhouse with the shade cloth because it's significantly cooler in there. It's got fans so the air is circulating, and I'm going to hang all of these to dry for the next week. Check this out. I wish I could remember what the different varieties were. Oh, you know what this is, I bet? These are shallots. That's why these are different. Well, that's exciting. I don't think I realized that. I forgot entirely that I ordered shallots. I have this whole harvest here I wasn't even thinking about in my planning. Y'all, being forgetful means life is full of surprises. This is cool. Okay. So I've been noticing these and I'm like, oh, that variety must not be as quick to come to harvest, you know, to fruition. But I haven't really got up in here and really looked at them. I've just walked past here and surveyed all the onions laying over. These are shallots. Yes. Sorry, excuse my little surprise party for the shallots. This is what I'm doing first thing in the morning is I'm going to come and deal with getting these harvested. I don't want to leave them in the ground too long because if you wait too long, they will start to kind of like disintegrate and get a little soft. I was actually noticing today how much my peppers are really starting to get established. Like they've darkened up quite a lot and they're really starting to grow. That's really awesome. So I make this stuff called chili crisp. I have a video over on my cooking channel, The Farmer's Table, for it. I'll put a link to it. But I shared a video of a variety where you take like dried shallots, dried garlic, you take all dried ingredients and you mix it together in oil and then you let it set for a couple weeks to make a chili crisp. It's like a condiment. I really like it on everything, but namely eggs and stuff like that, potatoes. Anyway, sometimes I just want to be like, here friend, take a whiff. There is a long version of chili crisp where you actually fry the onions or the shallots and the garlic. Typically I do the dry one, but now that I have all those fresh shallots and we just harvested a ton of fresh garlic, I think that I'm going to make like chili crisp from my garden. It won't have my peppers in it yet, but if I save peppers well this summer, dry a bunch of them and hold them back for next early summer, I should be able to make chili crisp then with like all of my garden ingredients. Isn't it crazy how much forethought goes into like really growing your food? Like and not just, okay, I want to grow food so we can live, but like growing your food as a foodie who loves enjoying different things. Like you literally sometimes think about recipes and meals for years. All right, I'm trying to position my camera so with the most light as possible because it's getting very dusky out here. In 2018, I got to tell y'all a story about slow food. I've been thinking about slow food a lot lately. I shot a vlog talking about it the other day. But in 2018, we went to the Homesteaders of America conference in October. Jeremiah's mom had passed away. We were in just terrible grief and decided to kind of go to this conference, honestly, to get our grief off our mind, to just get away. And while we were there, this is early on in our YouTube journey. I think maybe we had like 20 to 30,000 subscribers at that time. We were not speaking or anything like that. And while we were there, we met these guys, Doug and Andy from Hand Hewn Farm. It was the first time we met them. Of course, they've been to our house multiple times. They've been here, they've been in Arkansas. We've now made like a relationship with them and have learned a lot from them. This October of 2018, they were at a booth at Homesteaders of America and they were handing out single slices of prosciutto, which is cured ham. And Jeremiah took one taste of this cured ham and he's like, I have to have this. And of course you can go buy prosciutto at the store and it tastes very good. It's delicious. It's expensive, so you probably wouldn't want to buy it all the time, but it's very nice to eat. But it was nothing like this home-cured prosciutto that had been aged for 3 years that these guys were sampling out. And we actually went home from Homesteaders of America and bought our first pigs, which were at the time 3 months and 6 months respectively. So we grew those up, bred them, and then obviously waited through a pregnancy, raised those babies, grew those up, ended up butchering them with Doug and Andy from Hand Hewn. They came out to the farm. And then we hung those prosciutto legs and we're just now coming up on being able to cut into our first prosciuttos. We have multiple legs hanging and our goal is to process pigs so periodically that we always have meats curing and hanging. All of that to say, that's a 6-year journey in order to eating the fruits of your labor. When I really think about the beautiful hobby of growing food and the kind of weight and reward it has to offer, I'm completely amazed. I'm surprised that we actually do it. I'm very impatient with things sometimes, but it's really grown me. And it's funny that like I pulled those shallots out. This is, I think, my first time successfully growing shallots. I'm trying to remember, but I don't think that I've ever grown, at least not that many. And I'm thinking immediately, what can I do with these? Oh, I know what I'm gonna do. Oh, I know what would make this better. Oh, it will only take a year to get there. I like setting goals like that. It's good for me. There is this great reward. And if you're in the place of being like, oh man, it's gonna take me years to get there, you have something to look forward to. Like if you're in the place of being like, should I plant fruit trees or should I establish the asparagus patch? It's gonna be years before I get to enjoy those things. It means you have something to look forward to. I mean, how much richness would we experience if we were not intimidated by years of waiting? I'm completely out of light and I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. I actually don't feel super well today. I know I've shared my health stuff with you guys for a long time, but I have kind of some autoimmune issues and I am definitely in something of a flare today. So I've been taking it super easy. And that's part of the reason why I'm only digging my potatoes a bucket at a time right now. But just being able to get out in the garden, it may be pushing my body a little bit, but at the same time it does me so much good that I just wanted to turn the camera on today and share with you guys my favorite and my joy in waiting. I bless y'all. Until next time.